What's up, guys? We're here today to talk about grip. When I talk about grip, we talk about principles. Principles apply to everybody with every gun. How different people apply it and how the same person applies it on one gun versus another allows them to apply the principles slightly different, but the principles remain. So let's get started. Principle number one is going to be friction or contact. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to have as much skin contact on the gun as possible. We want to minimize all the sorts of gaps that we might see, right, in some common shooting errors. Now, when there's a grip problem, when we don't have enough friction, when you're shooting slow, it may not affect you. But when we start to shoot at more practical paces, recoil is like water. It is going to find every single gap it can and start to wiggle the gun around, cause erratic behavior in recoil. Okay, so let's discuss friction in more depth. The thing that we want to do and we want to maximize contact, but we could also add modifiers that help us when it comes to making better contact with our guns. So let's start off first with steel aluminum frame guns, right? We have this Gerson guard here, and what they do, typically steel aluminum guns, they have grip panels, right? These have been replaced by lock grips. You take the screws out and then you can just replace the panels with a more aggressive model, right? Very, very useful, very helpful. These are a grid lock design, and they give you much more purchase on the gun compared to the factory grips. So with that said, we also have our plastic guns. So there's several options for a plastic gun. The most common that I recommend to people who are newer shooters or people who don't train tremendously often are talon grips or handle it grips. Essentially, they're a grip overlay. They attach with an adhesive, you apply it with a hairdryer. It takes 5 minutes to do, and it is very cost effective. It costs about $20 per overlay. Also, it doesn't add any appreciable thickness to the grip, so it doesn't feel significantly different. And if you want to remove it, it's very easy to remove. Now, they typically offer two options. One is a granular or granulate type of option, which is a skateboard tape. This is very good for competition guns, home defense guns, outside the waistband carry guns, guns that are not going to be up against your skin. If you used it as a carry gun, it's going to cause two problems. One, it's going to abrade your skin because it's rubbing against your skin with the sandpaper texture. And two, it's going to ruin your clothing. So your clothing is going to get abraded by the sandpaper and probably get destroyed. Not ideal. So for those people who want to carry their guns also, they make a rubberized texture that it is tackier than your typical grip that you would have on the gun. But when you carry it against your body, it's going to be more comfortable. All right. This option here on this Canik Rival here, we have what's called silicone carbide. And what this is what we do is we put an epoxy over the place. First off, we mask off the areas that we don't want it to go. We put an epoxy on the areas that we do want it to go, and we sprinkle the sandpaper-like grit onto the gun. This option works really well. It holds up very well over time and over use. This has probably been on this gun for a couple months now with heavy volumes of training, and it's held up very, very well. It also has a very, very grippy texture, and you could put it where you want it and where you don't. If you have any mechanical skill, reasonable mechanical skill, this is easy to do, and it also is very cost effective because the materials will do several guns. Okay. A third option, which I don't have here for plastic guns, is stippling. So stippling actually takes a soldering iron with a tip and it puts marks in the frame to dimple the frame itself, the plastic of the frame. So you're modifying the frame permanently with this. If you don't like it, that could be a problem. It also takes a lot of time. It's probably the most expensive, but when it's done right, it looks very, very good. Right? So that's friction. The last thing that we can do, especially when we're competing, we're using grip chalk. So this is Iron American Sports Chalk. This is what I've been using the most of. You can order this on Amazon. You can get it in Walmart. Easily available. So what I do when I'm applying chalk is I want to get it on my support hand. I want to get it on my firing hand, except for my trigger finger, because I don't need it there. And I want to get it where the support hand contacts the firing hand. So what I typically do with this is I'll put a line down, I'll put a line across, kind of like that. And then I'll spread it around all the fingers except for the trigger finger. If you see me, I kind of keep this trigger finger out of the way. I'll put it on the knuckle where it contacts the trigger guard, put it on the knuckle where it contacts the trigger guard, and I'll wipe it in the back here. Right, and what you'll see, as it dries, you'll see everywhere that it goes. Now, if you're using grip chalk, you should be training with it in dry fire. Right? It's very important because it will feel slightly different, how you draw your gun, how you grab your mags. All those things are going to be important things to consider when you're using or not using grip chalk. Also, if you use it, also practice without it so that you're not totally dependent on it. If you become 100% dependent on it and there's a day where you either forget it or it rains, this stuff basically becomes worthless, right? So really pay attention to how it, be comfortable with how it feels when you have it and when you don't have it, so you don't get too reliant on one or the other, right? So that's friction. Let's start talking about the next principle.